Feel free.
Yeah, we are live. Hello and welcome in to another episode of the Calcio Connection podcast, connecting with you Italian football fans from all over the world. Alex Donno alongside Jerry Mancini as always, and we bring in a special guest. We always love when Miguel Agyei joins us, talking a little Milan. Obviously not the result you were looking for, Miguel, but Miguel's always a positive guy. You're always in a good mood. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing great. It's a pleasure to be on the podcast once again.
Yeah, we love having you, man. And you know, I'll get right into to something on the Scudetto, and I'm certainly not here to gloat. There's still a lot of games left to play, so I'm not gonna fall into that trap with 11 match days to go.
Right.
I've heard and seen some folks saying that, you know, Sunday, the way that the results went, you know, Inter grinding out 3 points in a victory. Tougher than it should have been against Torino, but it's a results-oriented business. That's all that really matters at the end of the day was the 3 points. And, you know, with Milan falling 1-0 to Napoli, you know, Inter going now 9 points clear of Milan and provisionally 10 points clear of Juventus, although Juve do have a game in hand. I've seen some folks say that Sunday was the day that Inter secured the Scudetto. I'm not going to quite go that far. And part of the reason why I'm not going to go that far is I know what if Juventus can find any consistency, I know what their lineup is capable of, and they're out of Champions League now, which could end up working into their favor. I think Milan are a little bit more of an enigma, so I want your take, Miguel. Now, obviously, Milan have had a ton of injuries, so you know getting some healthy bodies back up front could be the difference in finding form. So while some have said Sunday was the day when Inter secured the Scudetto, I'll ask your opinion. Was Sunday the day that Milan lost it? What's your outlook now for the rest of the season? And listen, I know that for Milan, really the goal to begin with was top four, which they're still very much in. So how do you kind of look at the final 11 match days? Are you still thinking Scudetto, or are you focused on top four?
I mean, in my personal opinion, this is Serie A. Anything can happen. If we look at the last Serie A season, the Scudetto race went to the last fixture, and Inter lost it by a point. Anything can happen. There's these lower league sides in the table who end up pulling a massive, result. Inter was lucky to get the win against Torino. I thought they were going to draw. It looked like it was heading for a draw, and Lautaro managed to step up. And for Milan, sure, it wasn't the result that we expected. And yes, it's nice to dream for Scudetto. We had a brilliant start, and we were leading the table, I think, by 4 points at one point, and it was great. But the fact of the reality is Milan doesn't have the depth to compete with Inter. Inter can bring Alexis Sanchez off the bench, Arturo Vidal, Christian Eriksen, guys like that who are they've played world-class football. They've won trophies before. They know how this thing goes. Milan, where we have the youngest squad in Serie A, and creds to the Milan players for handling the pressure that they get every time they step on the pitch. But sometimes they lack confidence. Sometimes they lack, complacency. They lack that keeping their cool and their control under pressure. We saw in the game how Rebic, a veteran, ended up getting a stupid red card. That internally affects the team. So do I think the Scudetto race is over? Not necessarily. If you really think about it, Juve can actually climb up the table without a doubt. If they beat Napoli, they beat Milan. If they beat, I think they have to play Roma.
Inter too.
They have to play Inter. All those points right there would put them back in the Scudetto race. So I don't think it's over. I think Inter have one hand on the trophy right now, and they need to get their second hand on it. If you ask me, I think Inter has secured it 80%, but anything can happen.
Yeah, I would agree with that. On the one hand, something that's impressed me from Inter's standpoint are their habitual ability now to grind out results like they got in Torino. Because like you said, Miguel, I was honestly coming down to the wire. I had a little bit of hope because Torino gave up so many goals in the final 15 minutes. So that was kind of one thing where I thought, okay, maybe there is a goal to be had because they tend to collapse late in matches. But at the same time, I'm thinking, this Inter not playing that well. This kind of has draw written all over it, but Lautaro had a real precision header. So, results like that and it is an 8-game winning streak, are kind of what makes me think maybe the DNA of the club is changing a little bit. But I think your number, 80%, that's probably a good number because I wasn't born yesterday. I've been following Inter for a long enough time to know that there is pazza, there is crazy in their DNA, and also they've been they had a lot very early in the season. They had a lot of COVID. They've been a little bit lucky, especially lately in avoiding the injury bug. And even when they've had a few injuries, they've not been serious. Like there was a midweek scare with Christian Eriksen. Then it turned out he was healthy enough to at least come off the bench in the game, and he helped when he came off the bench. So they've been a little bit more fortunate than some clubs with the injuries. But Jerry, you're the impartial observer here. Although I'm going to say impartial, even though I've been brainwashing you enough that you're writing for Inter sites now. I'm trying to make you more of an Inter supporter. Of course, he still loves Lazio. I don't want anyone to think otherwise. But what was your view coming out of Sunday? Like I mentioned that a lot of people are saying Sunday was quote unquote when Inter secured the Scudetto. I'm not completely convinced of that. How do you feel?
No way, man. This team can lose 4 in a row out of nowhere. You don't know that, man. It's not that it's secured. I was tweeting about it. They're an inch closer to the Scudetto. I would phrase it. Not that it's secured. They got a step further to advancing to that elite trophy, but there is no guarantees. And I laughed when the announcer said that they only have one predominant opponent left, which is the top 4, which is Juventus. I don't agree with that because I know that Roma can't beat anybody right now when it comes to top teams, but knowing how Inter plays and how these two teams matched up the last time they played, it's possible that Roma can steal maybe 2 points away from them and earn a draw. So
yeah, I think it's been 5 or 6 meetings in a row where Inter and Roma have played to draws. It's crazy. The last time either side beat the other was in fall of 2017. Inter took a 3-1 against Roma, and then I think 6 meetings since they've all been draws.
I hate Roma, obviously, but you have to go by stats, and it's proven that they're able to steal points from Inter, so those can be vital points. I personally think that Milan's out of the race. After what I saw yesterday, it's just that, and Miguel said it offline to me today, that the injuries, this team cannot go through one game without getting injured. I don't know what it is. You tell me the last time Milan had a match and did not have somebody hurt. I think
that was against Napoli back in November.
There you go. So you know off by heart. I think they lost somebody against Manchester United in the midweek. I don't know off the top of my head, but I just remember someone higher. Yeah, see, there was one there. You guys lost players yesterday, I'm pretty sure.
Leao has an injury now.
Leao got injured.
Rebic suspension, yeah. And I wanted to ask you, Ricky, did you see the little social media incident with Teo Hernandez where he I think it was on his what was it? I can't keep up with all this shit that people are on these days. It was his Snapchat maybe where he threw the referee under the bus, and unfortunately, like we see the precedent that incidents like that usually cause suspensions. Is there any sort of follow up on that? I think he did delete it, so I don't know if it was up there long enough for him to get in trouble. Did you hear anything about that?
I didn't hear anything about that. I'm assuming he posted it out of anger because the result didn't go our way. Posted it, probably deleted it. There probably will be an investigation. If something happens, he probably will get a suspension. Again, another stupid action that, hurts the team because we were struggling with depth and injuries. So all of these Milan players need to hold themselves accountable. You can't be doing things that's going to affect us on and off the pitch. That we don't have depth. We're trying to get to top 4. Because if we don't make top 4, we're not going to bolster the squad. We're not going to make any big signings this summer that's going to help us in the Champions League if we do qualify for it. So every player really needs to think. Rebic needs to, apologize to the team because It was the 92nd minute. You could have held that in for 3 minutes, and then the whistle would have blown. You could have said all what you wanted to say behind closed doors. It was just stupid. And for Theo Hernandez to go on Snapchat and berate the referee, that's another stupid thing. You just saw your teammate get a red card for saying something stupid. Why would you do that?
Yeah, I want to get you guys' opinions on the match. Jerry, if you want to weigh in on the Snapchat thing, and then you can get into Napoli's 1-0 victory. It was Politano doing his former club Inter the little solid by scoring that goal. But yeah, Jerry, if you had anything to add on Theo and your thoughts on the game, and then I'll get Miguel's thoughts on the game.
I think the biggest takeaway, aside from Theo and Rebic and their poor actions, is the fact that we've seen a Milan side now that lacks maturity. And that was the biggest flaw yesterday. We didn't see one player step up and be a leader and show some quality, not to try to get their team in sound and not overreacting. You know what I mean? Even Gigi Donnarumma went to the sideline and after the game and snapped on the Napoli players. Like, when your captain has lost control, who's holding the ship together? And for so long, we haven't seen Milan kind of lose the plot. And recently, since January, we've seen them lose, 4 or 5 matches now, not show the same form, not getting those squeaky wins, those pivotal 1-0 wins, those dirty goals that they were scoring a lot of the way. A lot of their wins, sure, yeah, they got penalties. And I hate to say it, guys, but they were legit penalties. I'll be honest. They're not. If you're spending 90% of your time in an opponent's box and someone draws a foul on you, it might most likely it's going to get called. So I'm not one to talk against penalties because Immobile got so many phantom calls last year. So it would be such a contradiction for me, especially Fiorentina was the biggest one where I think that was Caicedo actually when he tripped over and got the call. But regardless, Lazio got a lot of phantom calls last year, and I would never criticize another team for getting more penalties because it's just the way the game goes. So I've been on the other end, so I wouldn't be a hypocrite, but it's a team that really lacks experience and sorry, not experience, just that leadership role. Look what they had to come. And another thing is they don't have players who can come on and make a difference. Like, I get you have. I'm sorry, and I don't mean that in any disrespect, Miguel. I'm just saying, like, you got Zlatan, and what do you have after Zlatan? Mario Mandzukic? Sorry, guys.
He's not healthy either.
The guy was a waste of a signing. I'm sorry. It was like giving free money to, like, that could have been used to charity or something.
I think it was a roll of the dice. I mean, do you agree with that, Miguel, that, like, signing Mandzukic, I mean, he's so proven in Serie A. He hasn't actually played in a really, really long time, though, and he's older. So it was just a gamble, right? Because if he can reach, like, the form he had, at Juventus, you're saying this is a guy who knows how to make the right runs. He knows how to play tactically in this league. He was really a master tactician in Serie A. So it's kind of like, maybe the upside isn't necessarily that high, but if this works out, it's really going to work out.
Yeah, I would agree with that. With the Mandzukic situation, it was a rolling of the dice. You have a proven player who has won titles in Serie A. He's masterclass. He's a fighter. He's been to a World Cup final.
Right.
This guy knows how to play football, and he knows how to play it in Italy because he practically won a bunch of titles in Italy before leaving. And it was a roll of the dice because Milan has not made the smartest investments on strikers. So you get this guy on a free. He comes in. If he's healthy, you put him in the squad. If he can help the squad, it's amazing. If not, he's on your books for half a season. And if it doesn't work out, you ship him out the door. Rather unfortunate that, he hasn't been healthy. And, that's kind of affected the guy who hasn't played in about a year, But if he can recover and he can come in and he can fill in for the last 10 games that we have playing and he scores a couple goals, and Milan, if you watch the game, Milan was obviously missing the target man. We had a bunch of crosses going into the box, but nobody can get their head on it because we don't have a target man. So if he can come in to the team at the end of the season to fill in that role, it could be very helpful to Milan making that top 4.
Good point.
Yeah, and to be honest, Jerry, you were right to say that the signing, at least not yet, it obviously hasn't worked out. But I got to be honest with you, I think that there were a handful of other clubs in Serie A who would have been willing to make that signing. I mean, I even look at Inter, and obviously there's not a huge need because the top 2 strike partnership has been working really well. Like I read the stat today that the only duo in Europe that has scored more this year than Lukaku and Lautaro are Lewandowski and Muller. So obviously Lukaku and Lautaro are playing great together, but you never can say for sure that everyone's going to stay healthy. And Alexis has been wonderful off the bench, but at fourth striker, it's really an empty hole, right? I mean, with Pinamonti, who Conte doesn't trust. So I would have loved to have had, to have signed Mandzukic to be Inter's fourth striker. I think that would have been a great move. When Milan made that signing, I thought, hey, this is an excellent move.
Well, I want to add, let's look at the players that came off for Milan, Miguel. Okay. Aside from Krunic coming off and Rebic coming on, I think that was the first change he made and was the most obvious change that it was his best player on the bench. After that, you got Mieti for Kessie. It's a downgrade.
Right.
Doesn't help your team. Shouldn't even make that substitution because you're putting your team in a bad situation. And then you got Diaz coming on for Çalhanoğlu, which I thought that Diaz doesn't pose any threat in the final third. Like, he's good at dribbling, but I think that after that, he just doesn't know where to go after his end product. That's just what I saw from yesterday's game, and it kind of sums it up for me. Then you got Salamakers. This guy, sorry, man. You want to go for a freaking run marathon, like Terry Fox marathon, this is your guy. But, like, again, no end product down the wing, just goes into a brick wall. And then your last one is Jens Pettehaga. I think there's potential for him.
A lot of potential.
I think there's a lot of potential for him, but we're starting to see the lows of what he can offer where it doesn't work for him, and he needs to kind of like develop his game and get it to that next level. He's still young. So I think of all the players that I've mentioned, I think that he's the one guy who can really become something for the long term for this team. But when you're calling those players on yesterday, it's like we're starting to see maybe that Milan's depth is not as strong as people call it to be. And they say, oh, we got these players and we got these good signings and they cost 10 million, but okay, maybe they were good at the beginning of the year, but as the season progresses and you have to play teams twice, they start to figure out your players, how you play, they adapt to them, and it becomes more difficult. So I personally, like, Çalhanoğlu, is he really poor? Like, not poor, but has he been on a decline, you would say, this year because of his injuries? Probably not being fit. I'm just saying, like, he was invisible yesterday, but I know he just came back from an injury as well, so it hasn't been easy for him. But, like, and what about Romagnoli? Was he hurt? Is that why he missed the game yesterday?
Okay, so I think Romagnoli sustained an injury during the week, so he was not put into the team lineup. The thing with Çalhanoğlu is, yes, he's had a couple injuries here and there. I think the contract renewal is kind of getting to his head. He played absolutely well in the first half of the season. And really then, he's with this contract renewal, he's demanding these high wages, and Milan is like, well, the season isn't over yet, and we haven't met our objective yet, so we can't give you those wages. And obviously a player wants that contract signed ASAP, or when their demands aren't met, there's a bit of friction. So I think the contract was given to him, and then adding the injuries on top of it doesn't help him at all. I agree with your point on Diaz. He definitely knows how to dribble, but when it comes to the finishing product in the final third, he doesn't know when to release the ball to pass. If you watch the game, there was a couple of instances where he made some really nice dribbles and there were people open on the other side, but because he didn't pick his head up to look, he didn't make those passes. And those could have been easy passes where somebody could have got a shot on goal. So yeah, that sucks. Meite, I would say Meite isn't really one of those who is crap. Obviously, he's not better than Kessie, But you have to put into perspective that guy was basically rotting on the bench with Gianpaolo at the helm at Torino, and he found a way out, and now he's finding his foot. He had a couple poor games when he first started, but he's gotten better. He's a bit more reliable now, and he's been working with Kessié. Kessié has been putting him under his wing. So if you've watched Mate in the last couple of games, he's gotten better, and I think that if he continues, he can be one of those players where you can bring off the bench and it's like, okay, this guy can actually help our team. If you watch the game against Manchester United, he did pretty well with Kessié and the double pivot. So yeah, we don't have that world-class player who can come off the bench and make an instant impact, but we have some prospect and some promising players that if they continue to develop in the positive direction, maybe in a year or two, that's where they'll be.
I want to bring up this question here from our Ricky. Miguel, what do you think? He says, go all out for Europa League or secure second? Let me interject, Miguel, before I get your take on it. Now, honestly, the difference between second place and fourth place is nothing, right? I mean, obviously winning a Scudetto.
There's money. There's a couple of thousands difference.
There's like a prize difference.
There's a prize difference. So like,
as far as but like it doesn't make
like 18,000, and like fourth
Okay.
is like 14,000 or 13,000. It's like a $5,000-$6,000 gap. You know what? For a team like for Milan, it makes a big difference. I'm sorry, man.
But my point was going to be though, like I guess that's fair. I didn't know about the prize money difference. I mean, obviously. Top four is Champions League. Finishing second, third, or fourth doesn't make any difference in your Champions League pot because that goes by European coefficient.
Mm-hmm.
So all I was really thinking there was, and I'll give you my take, and I want Miguel's. Like making a run through Europa League, and there's prize money in that as well. If you win Europa League, there is prize money there, but. I feel like securing Champions League is the most important thing. I mean, Milan are 6 points above fifth place, so they're in it. They're in a decent spot, but obviously 6 points over 11 match days. There's no guarantee in that. So I feel like the priority to me would be qualifying for next year's Champions League. If it does get to a point, and Milan are in a decent spot against Manchester United because they got the draw on the away goal. So they're probably even a slight favorite to move on in the next round because you get the second leg of the San Siro. So maybe a deep run in Europa League is to be had. But if it reaches a point where the squad depth is tested so thin that, going through another round of Europa League might come at the expense of top four, I think you have to prioritize top four. I think gambling on a deep Europa League run is less important than the security that comes with securing top four for next year. What do you think?
Yeah, I totally agree. In a couple of my videos, I've mentioned, hey, I personally, before the season started, I said that, Milan will probably make it to the quarterfinals of, Europa League and then bow out. At the end of the day, top four is necessary. Here is my thing. Yes, the top four race is getting a lot more competitive. We're only 6 points above fifth place, right? This is Serie A. Anything can happen. Whoever is in fifth place could go on an unbeaten streak or whatever. Lower teams in the bottom half of the table may pull off some upsets. And that is why I'm like, okay, say you gamble for Serie A and you put all your eggs in that basket and we come in fifth once again, like we did last year. What do? Because if you win Europa League, you get that automatic qualification into the Champions League. Plus, you get all those bonuses.
That's a good point.
So it's 50-50 in my eyes. If Milan can pull it off, which I think they can, they have Roma in that competition. They have some world-class sides, but
Tottenham.
If Milan,
Tottenham's not bad.
Tottenham is in there. If Milan can make it past this stage and players can recover, as they're reportedly said to do, I think we should put both of our eggs in both baskets, because you can't just bow out of Europa League and then you focus on Serie A, and then at the end of the day you come in fifth, and then you're like, well, I should have put more into
Did you get muted?
I think
there you go. There you
yeah.
go. I hear you now.
So yeah, it's tough when it comes to the depth of the squad, but I think that Milan should try their best to go as far as they can in the Europa League. And if it comes to the expense and we have to focus on Serie A, then so be it. But you can't count out on Europa League right now because anything can happen. We've seen this before in Serie A. Last season, we came in 5th and we were right there. We need that extra push. We need that extra guarantee. So winning Europa League might do it for us.
Yeah, plus like any trophy is huge, and Europa League is a nice trophy. Like I'd rank Europa League in front of, say, Coppa Italia. That's certainly that's a more it's obvious. It's not Champions League, it's not a Scudetto, but Europa League it's a very prestigious trophy if you can get it, and that's the sort of thing that can really galvanize a squad and like really become a rallying point. And Jerry, we've talked about this with other trophies, like Lazio got a big spark after winning Coppa Italia. Napoli had a big spark after winning a Coppa. Like sometimes just, the unity that comes from winning a trophy can really help push a squad to another level. And, something I've been thinking about when we got that question from Ricky about, securing Champions League or securing second place versus going all out for Europa League. I can't help, and I've been thinking about this for years. This comes up. And I know our friend Nima has brought this up on the Italian Football Podcast Twitter account as well. That I really think it's important for Serie A for both of the Milan-based teams, Inter and Milan, to really become powerhouses, right? And this is no disrespect, to the Napolis and the Romas of the world, but you think about, basically the decade-long or almost decade-long banter era that both Inter and Milan went through. And during that time, what happens? Juventus wins 6, 7, 8, 9 straight Scudetti, and then Roma comes up second at 1 or 2 points, and Napoli comes up second several times. But even while Inter and Milan were both at their worst, and Napoli came pretty close in 2018 under Sarri when they, the only team to ever record 91 points and not win a Scudetto. So they came about as close as anyone's come in the last, decade. But, during the time when Inter and Milan were both at their worst and both in their banter eras, no one else could step up. And it's a reality I know a lot of people don't like to talk about. And I know I'm going to take a lot of shit over saying this because it's this, Milano elitist type of attitude. But the bottom line is when you think about the history and the financial potential, and I say potential because obviously Inter are not in the best shape financially right now. And over the years, Inter and Milan have both had rough financial times, but just the potential that comes with that market and the history and prestige of those clubs, when Inter and Milan are at their best, those are really the only teams that are capable of generating the kind of revenue to really challenge Juventus. And so when Milan and Inter were both in the dust, Napoli and Roma, the likes of those teams, couldn't step up and challenge. So we need both Inter and Milan to get into Champions League consistently because that's what's going to take some chinks out of the armor of Juventus. I think that's the only way to end their long run of dominance because guess what? Even if Inter win a Scudetto this season, let's say, God forbid, Milan don't win Champions League and then Inter, they don't settle their ownership problems and they're in financial trouble. Even if Inter are able to win a Scudetto this season, if Inter go in the mud financially and Milan don't make Champions League, what's going to happen? Probably another 4 or 5 years of Juventus winning Scudetti if the Milano clubs can't be up there to challenge.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I just want to see Serie A fucking competitive again. And I just hope that Juventus doesn't finish in top 4. If they somehow finish out of top 4, then you can really see Inter and Milan really get into the crack and take advantage. And Juventus will be in such a bad position. Just not making it out of the round of 16. They lost so much money. Like, people don't understand. It's a big loss for not making it to the quarterfinals. Like, it's I don't know the numbers, but it's a substantial loss that they're going to be taking this quarter too, and not making Champions League would really hurt them. I don't think that's going to happen personally. It's that's far fetched, but
yeah, they're going to make it. Yeah, I mean, stranger things have happened, but they look pretty damn good right now outside of the Porto games.
I just wish that owners. The problem is all these owners are cheap in Serie A. They're all fucking cheap. Okay, all of them. They're all cheap. The only people I know who want to spend is Juventus and Inter. Milan, I don't think they're there yet, wanting to spend money because they can't spend money like they would like to because of the whole FFP and the whole bullshit they're going through and trying to get back to normality of like what Inter had to go through for a couple of years. So I don't know the whole situation with Milan and their whole financial situation. But again, the next couple of years are going to be really different because Inter took a big loss. Roma took a massive loss. Juventus took a massive loss. How do these teams financially cope in the next 2-3 years, right? Can this be a setback or is it just a 1 year off where these clubs are so massive that they can overcome these losses? I don't personally think so. I think they have to go dig into other streams now in order to like recuperate this kind of money because teams like Juventus were probably getting that financial resources without having to go into their back streams or whatever it may be. So having those techie revenues and jerseys and whatever it may be, right? So I don't know. I wish Lazio would get rid of their owner and finally get a rich owner, but it's been 20 years and that still hasn't happened.
Yeah. But by the way, I wanted to bring up this topic with you guys because, Jerry, you mentioned when you talk about Juventus and Ronaldo, have you seen the rumor now that's picking up some traction? I got to say, if this were to happen, I think it would benefit all parties. So there are a lot of rumors now linking Cristiano Ronaldo to a reunion with Real Madrid this coming summer. And really, I think that would be certainly a win for Juventus to get his wages off the books, because if they're going to start, picking up the pieces and reinvesting in the squad and getting deeper, you've got to get that 60 million gross off of your wage books, because the Ronaldo thing, it's been a failed investment. I see some people making these sorry ass excuses now about, oh, well, you know what? He wasn't signed to win Champions League. That was a myth. No, he was signed so we could sell tickets and sell jerseys. It is horseshit. And I don't know if the people saying that are apologists for the clubs or just apologists for Ronaldo. Yes, the jersey sales and the ticket sales were great. That's something you can certainly expect when you bring in a worldwide icon like Ronaldo. But he was signed to get Juventus over the hump in Champions League. And for a number of reasons, not all of them are the fault of his play, because a lot of it are the financial resources that he sucks up that you can't spend on other positions like the midfield. But it has been a failed signing. So if Juventus could get him back to Real Madrid, get the wages off the books, huge dub for Juventus. Now, Real Madrid, while I'm not completely well-versed in their current financials, I'm not going to claim I've seen their books or anything. Real Madrid seems to me like one of the few clubs in the world, and of course this was the case before he left in the first place, but even after COVID, I'm saying, that seems to be one of the few clubs in the world that could actually afford to pay Ronaldo's wages and still have a balanced team, right? So I think it would work for Juventus. They get to bring back their icon. They get to bring back a guy who was part of, one of the best periods of the club's history when they won all those Champions League, and Zidane is back there, so it'd be a great reunion. And I think it'd be good. I think it'd be a win for Ronaldo because he had a great time there. I think he left for another challenge in another league. I think he'd be happy to go back to Real Madrid. So. And this is a rumor for now, although Zinedine Zidane did kind of hint that it might be true, that there might be something to it. He was asked about it over the weekend. So this is not completely out of left field. This seems like something that could really happen. Now, I'd kind of prefer if Ronaldo stayed at Juventus as an Interista, because I see the way things are going. But honestly, and Miguel, I'll get your take on this first, and then Jerry's. If that were to happen, if Ronaldo went back to Real Madrid, it seems like he wins, Real Madrid wins, Juventus wins. It almost makes too much sense.
Yeah, it is an interesting, situation. Personally, I don't think it's going to happen. I think that Ronaldo is going to finish out his contract at Juve. I think he left Real Madrid because he wanted a new challenge. It was nice. He won 3 Champions Leagues in a row. They won the La Liga title multiple times. But I think he realized, that was nice and all, but he wanted a new challenge. Now, could a return to Real Madrid be on the cards? It could be if Juve really deemed that, hey, we made this investment with you for, X amount of years. It's year 2 going on year 3. It's not really working out, and it's hurting our finances. So you can leave. I think he will find a way to leave, and it would benefit Juventus. Although it wouldn't be the smartest move because they don't really have any other world-class talent other than him. So it would affect them, but that would be, the start of them having this rebuilding process that many teams have gone through. Another thing that I've saw is that Ronaldo could possibly return to Manchester United. And that would basically be, him closing off his career and, finishing out strong where he began, which that also makes sense as well, because Manchester United is a club who they're not in financial troubles, but they're lacking that striker. They have Edison Cavani, who they signed, and he's looking like he's on his way out. Anthony Martial isn't consistent. Who else do they have? So if they were able to get Ronaldo and Juve, would find a way to do it, they can arguably pay his wages. They're in the Premier League. They have that money, they have that revenue. They're a big team. I'm pretty sure the club would back them up on this move. That would also be on the card. So I think, in my opinion, Ronaldo's going to see out the season. He's going to see where Juve finishes. If they don't finish in top 4, he really might actually consider making his way out, because Ronaldo's somebody who wants to compete. He didn't come to Juve to play in Europa League. No, he came to Juve to try to get them to win the Champions League. And arguably it hasn't worked out. And is that his fault? No. The club has made some poor investments. They've given substantial wages to rotational players that didn't make any type of sense. So yeah, I think if they don't make top 4 this season, Ronaldo could be on his way out, and Madrid or United would be a nice fit for him.
Well, like Ricky says, imagine if they were in Europa League. But hey, maybe that's the next challenge for Ronaldo. He's won Champions League. Time to go win Europa League next year. Jerry, what do you think about Ronaldo? Return to Manchester United, return to Real Madrid? Do you think he leaves this summer?
It all depends if they can afford it, and what their financial situation is, what their long-term plan is, what their short-term plan is. I don't know the numbers for Real Madrid. I don't know what kind of financial position they're in. I'm guessing a club as big as them can probably afford him and surround him with players, compared to like Juventus, who don't have the equal amount of funds. I'm not too sold about Manchester United. They have really taken a different direction and have been more kind of stingent, like a little bit more less reluctant to sign players like they have in the past, where those splurge the 200 million on a player, the 150. They're a little bit more precautious compared to what they used to be. I could be wrong about that. That's just my kind of, what's the biggest signing they've done in the last 4 years with Pogba probably was their biggest money signing. And I'm sure they want to be cautious, because Harry Maguire cost 80 million, and he lit a stinker against Milan. So
that might have been the worst 80 million ever spent.
The best part is I was tweeting about his missed goal and I didn't even watch it. I just said that's the best part.
Scary thing ever.
I just tagged along
to banter about a play he didn't even see. I didn't even
watch it, man. I was at work and I got home for the second half. I watched the last 5 minutes of the first half. I caught the second half. I thought Milan played really well, personally, for what I saw in that game.
So
and that's just a side note. But Harry Maguire stunk the bed. But with Ronaldo, you know what? If he's to leave, I think the biggest beneficiary here is Paulo Dybala. I think Dybala benefits the most.
You would definitely get that new contract then if Ronaldo left.
Not even that. I hate when people. I'm gonna call her out. Mino Rio. What the hell is your stupid name?
Mina Rizuki.
Yeah, Mina Rizuki. That Mina Raiola I was about to say. Yeah.
Well, no, and it's funny actually. I was listening to their show last week on the Serie A Awesome, and they were making.
Sorry, buddy.
They're actually making a joke that what if Mina Rizuki married Mino Raiola, then she'd be Mina Raiola, and then we'd be less confused. Then it would be easier to talk about the two of them if they had basically the same name.
No, I can't stand her. I think she's stupid personally. I think her takes are so biased. I don't like her. I think she's stupid. I'll be honest. I hope she hears me say this. I don't give a shit, man. I don't even care half of them if Twitter all hated me because I said this. You know what? I don't hate Milan. I'm sorry, I don't hate Juventus because they haven't done anything to me either. Like some of their fans have really rubbed me off the wrong way. And she's one of them where she's so reactionary where Dybala's got to go. He's shit. He's terrible this season. Are you stupid? Like, no, seriously, are you stupid? The guy had COVID. And a lot of players who have contracted like COVID haven't come back the same. It's very hard to know how your body is, how it's going to react to it. Some players maybe haven't been able to really come back to their fitness level. He's been injured. It's unfortunate that he's been injured. I would take Dybala on Lazio any day of the week, okay? No ifs, ands, or buts. This guy is a talent. And since Ronaldo has joined Juventus, I think a lot of people don't realize, yes, he scores a lot of goals. But I said this on the last pod, and I'll say it again. When you're given the ball 90% of the time, chances are you're going to score a goal. You know what I mean? Like if the play is revolved around you, obviously you're going to score all the time. You're going to score a hat trick like yesterday because everything is built around you. The problem is a team like Cagliari is shit. They have no defense. Where when you start playing teams in Champions League, you're so predictable.
Yeah, and Jerry, on that note, I just have to interject with something really funny that I saw. You know how there are those accounts out there, and they're not even, most of them are not even Juventus fans. So I'm not ripping on Juventus supporters. I'm ripping on the basement dwelling Ronaldo fanboy accounts that just, they only tweet about Ronaldo. They could give a shit what club he's on. Like they worship Ronaldo. And I saw some of these fanboy tweets yesterday saying, because obviously the Champions League elimination was tough and Ronaldo's responsibility for the goal that eliminated them. It was humiliating last week. And so then I see these Ronaldo fanboy troll accounts after he scores a hat trick saying, Ronaldo silences critics with hat trick. It's like, bro, he just got humiliated in Champions League, and then he goes and scores 3 goals against the 17th place team fighting relegation in Serie A. And you're going to say he's silencing the critics? I could have scored twice against Cagliari. This guy goes out there and scores 3 times, and now he's silencing the critics. If anything else, I think the actual Juventus fans want to get those Ronaldo troll accounts out of their lives because it's got to be really like if you're an actual Juventus fan, you must want to throw your computer out the goddamn window when you're watching your club play. And then you have like these hundreds of drone accounts who are just worshiping Ronaldo. Like, who are these people? They're not fans of my club. Like, they just follow this guy. Like, if I were a Juventus supporter, I would want to get those Ronaldo fanboys out of my life.
I just don't like how Juventus has to work around Ronaldo. And to a degree, I get it. He's your best player. He's your superstar. But what you do in the long term is you affect other players in the team. Like you affect form, the way they play, their confidence. Look at Dybala. He hasn't been the same player since Ronaldo has arrived. He hasn't played to the same level. He hasn't been able. I think Agnelli really had him in the lineup in the first year when he joined, and his minutes just started to decrease, and then he lost his form, like I said, and his confidence, and he just hasn't been the same player since Dybala has been in the lineup, and he has to shift the way he plays. He had to change a different kind of role. Look how many strikers have come into this lineup and have been unable to actually produce, where prior to joining Juventus, they were elite strikers. Higuain just couldn't crack it with Juventus. You name, I don't know who else has joined that. Mario Mandzukic left. He should have stayed. They had to.
They forced him out. He would have stayed.
He would have stayed, but like, why? Because of his wages? Like, what a joke, eh? Because of Ronaldo's wages that tied up so much money, Mandzukic had to go out the door. And then they got rid of what's the midfielder they had?
Matuidi.
No, he was shit. That guy had to go. But the
That's
other
my
guy,
bro.
no, he's garbage.
Watch your mouth.
I don't like him. He's very speedy, but not a very technical player, I thought. But who's the other guy who they bought out?
Khedira?
Yes. You telling me Khedira would have been worse
shit.
than midfield? Hold on. Compared to what they
shit.
have right now, I was talking to a Juventus fan who is friends with Joe from Forza Napoli, and he said Sami Khedira would have probably been a better choice over what they have right now in Champions League, like slotting him in that midfield.
He's too old.
Yeah.
He may be old, but he could have been a little bit of an upgrade. That's sad. That's how shit their midfield is.
Jerry, Khedira is too old. He can barely run on the pitch. He's too slow. Like he's a good player. I'm not trying to shit on Khedira, but
were you talking about Emre Can?
Okay,
No, it wasn't
you're
him.
saying Emre Can.
Yeah, I was gonna say maybe I thought maybe that's who you're talking about because I would take Emre Can over Khedira.
It was just a side conversation we had, and he would have been. He thinks that Sami Khedira would have been better than what they had available. It's possible. I don't know. I haven't seen Sami Khedira play in a while, but I guess that whole midfield is shit for you.
That's why he hasn't played because he's not good enough. He had to go to the Bundesliga to play for a mid-table team. That's how good he is. Like he's not that good anymore. When he was at Real Madrid, sure, he was amazing. And his first couple years at Juventus, he was good. But age started to catch up with that guy, and he can't run on the pitch. And as much as, age catches up with these midfielders, once you can't do certain things that are needed in today's day and age in a midfielder position, there's no point. You're not world class anymore.
I say you sell Ronaldo as soon as you can because it's not helping them. And you're probably not, even if you broke even in the summer just to get him off the books, do it, man. Don't look to make a profit. Like I was just reading that right there.
Yeah.
Like realistic 30 million wouldn't buy Juventus much talent at this point. You're right. It wouldn't buy you talent. But what it does is it allows you to start the rebuild a year earlier. It allows the younger players to now adapt and play freely. You build around Chiesa. You build around whoever else they have other than Kulusevski. You build around De Ligt, McKennie. There are good pieces in place that are there already.
I think Artur has potential.
Artur has potential. Like you need these players to not have Ronaldo in the way. The problem is it's not Juventus, it's Ronaldo FC. You take out Ronaldo, it's Juventus now. Prior to Juventus buying Ronaldo, they had made the finals, I think, twice in the previous 4 years, okay? 4 or 5 years. And anybody who says, oh, it's just finals, who cares if it's finals? Are you kidding me? Making the finals is still amazing compared to like the amount of money that you inherit in the Champions League. Just losing in the finals is ridiculous amount. Like it's crazy. Like what your team can do for next year. So anybody who's disappointed that they got second in Champions League, don't be, because it actually helps your team financially massively. This is a team that didn't have a prestigious elite player. They had a balance of good players in their lineup, that they had enough depth in their midfield. They had enough depth up front. They had a good back line. And that's the Juventus that needs to come back for Juve fans. They can't be having this, like Carlos Garganese says, like this elite superstar where you think he's going to take your team to the next level and do everything. It doesn't work like that. You can do that maybe in basketball with LeBron James. You can do that in hockey, probably with Sidney Crosby. But in soccer, man, football, sorry, you need 11 players to contribute. People say that Messi does it by himself. No, Messi didn't win all those trophies by himself. He helped his team win games. He contributes assists. He makes people better. I'm sorry, Ronaldo doesn't make people better. he has always been surrounded by such elite talent on Real Madrid because they're so full of money that they are able to buy players to support him. He went to a Juventus side, burying himself, so stupid, knowing that they didn't have the finance to help him as compared to Real Madrid. And that's how I compare. Like, yeah, okay, Barcelona always had a superstar team, but at the end of the day, it wasn't that Messi was reliant on them. Like he either stepped up and scored goals or he helped. I just think that his overall game is a step further compared to Ronaldo. And I hate when I have to hear that. Who would you want on the field if it was a last minute goal and you needed Messi to score or Ronaldo to score? And Messi doesn't score in Argentina. Yeah, well, guess what? Argentina sucks every year. Okay, I'm sorry. My father-in-law is Argentine, and freaking that back line has stunk the bed for the last decade. So like when you don't have a defense and you're just relying on offense,
they're all forwards.
Yeah,
like every Argentinian plays forward.
But yeah, Ronaldo has to go, and there are pieces there, and you start the rebuild process. That's just how I see it personally.
So last thing I want to go over. We mentioned Inter getting the 2-1 victory at Torino. Didn't really talk a whole lot about the game. It was one of those performances that it reminds me a lot of sort of the typical Antonio Conte in his previous, incarnation as Juventus manager. It reminds me a little bit of also the Juve type of victories under Allegri, where it's those games where if you're an Interista watching it, you're thinking, okay, God, I think we're going to drop points here. If you're a fan of, Juventus and Milan, you're hoping Inter drop points. You're thinking, okay, it's going to happen. And then they find a way to grind it out in the end. In this case, I thought one of the few players for Inter who actually played well was Lautaro Martinez, drawing the penalty and scoring the game-winning goal on a nice precision header. Really difference makers in the game. I mentioned Lautaro, not the only player who played well in this one, because a couple of the substitutes were big for Inter. A little bit before the hour mark, they bring on Christian Eriksen. They bring on Alexis Sanchez. Alexis was the one who provided the assist to Lautaro. Eriksen made a difference as well because it wasn't so great from the start for Inter. Now, because of Eriksen picking up a knock midweek, Conte didn't have enough confidence to play him from the start. And Arturo Vidal had a minor surgery, so he's going to be out for a little bit. And Jerry's boy, Roberto Gagliardini, gets the start. And Gallia actually made me miss Arturo Vidal. I mean, he really, really struggled to put anything positive together. Unfortunately, just the attack tends to be a little bit stagnant. And, Gallia made some runs. He got into the box a few times. But as far as creativity in the buildup, there really was nothing there for him. I also thought from a negative standpoint, and it's a good thing when you have a lot of guys who don't play well and you can still grind out a victory, because I've seen plenty of seasons where Inter are not able to do that. For the second straight match, I didn't think Romelu Lukaku played particularly well. He didn't play so well against Atalanta, did not play well against Torino. I thought by Nicola Barella's standards, this was a pretty poor game for him. I thought for Hakimi, by his standards, this was a very poor game for him. So the three of those guys lacking a little bit, and also having Bobby Gaggs, start in the midfield, there just wasn't really any breakthrough for Inter. Not only did Lukaku not play very well, he wasn't getting a whole lot of service. There really just weren't any teeth in the attack of Inter in the first half. They go into the locker room at halftime 0-0, scoreless. It was, in the second half when Inter got the spark with the penalty, which Lukaku converted. They did concede, and then they were able to get the winner from Lautaro. So, this is certainly not the type of performance, Jerry, that I'm going to remember, but I think that those are 3 points that I might remember, and it went a really long way for Inter, who went provisionally 9 points on top of the table, and those 9 points did hold up through the weekend, given the Napoli-Milan result. And, I'm going to let you take it away here, Jerry, because you actually put probably more research into that match than I did, because you actually wrote a takeaways piece for Serpents of Madonnina. I got my guy Jerry writing for Inter sites now. So, I mean, what did you make of my assessment there, Jerry? It wasn't a good performance, but a very valuable 3 points.
Yeah, you know what? A win's a win. and I saw Lucci kind of like say that, who's a Juventus fan, and basically Daniel Lucci said, "Win's a win for Juventus," and he's right. It doesn't matter if you're being a low bottom team, a top bottom team. Sometimes the bottom teams, like Miguel said earlier in the show, it's the Serie A. You don't know what you're going to get every week. And Torino basically played a very low block and tried to catch them on the counterattack, and which they did. They got 2 chances, and in the Lianco missed the chance in the first half. Had he scored the first goal, who knows what Inter would have looked like. They would have been a really fragile team, and now Torino can play defensively much more sounded, and they don't have to like really give up any space. The problem is they conceded the first goal, which kind of altered the way they played. My key takeaways was that Torino continues to concede goals really late into matches, and this is why they have really given up so many points this year. They did it against Lazio when they lost 4-3, and I can't recall. There are other instances. They did it against Sassuolo when they were up 2-0 and they conceded 2 goals in the last 10 minutes of the match. They gave 2 goals consecutively.
They've done it twice against Inter now. In the first meeting back in November, they had a 2-0 lead against Inter in the second half. Inter scored 4 straight.
I guarantee you there's at least 20 points they've conceded off of like late goals in like the last 10 minutes, which is astonishing and shouldn't be happening. It's just mental breakdowns, weak goals. I thought Lautaro was really effective in the box, especially he making strong runs, being physical, and he really gave a presence on a day that Romelu Lukaku was very invisible and didn't have his best game. And credit to Bremer. I actually mentioned Bremer in my piece, and I thought that he was the best defender for Torino. He really played man-to-man on him, didn't give him an inch of space. On set pieces, he really didn't have a chance. So the thing is, when you play tight on Lukaku, he kind of frustrates him when he doesn't get his way. And as the game progressed, you can just see that he kind of dipped out of the game. But another player who I was disappointed with was Hakimi.
Yeah,
First 5 minutes of the game just dictated how he was going to play. Cheap giveaways, just like showing a poor effort to keep the ball in, and I think he just kicked it out of bounds. Like it was just a weak attempt, and then trying to make a pass back, and it went out of bounds. It was just really weak, and his runs down the flank. I don't like that he doesn't attack more. Like he needs to be more aggressive. Like go 1-on-1. You got speed. You got dribbling skills. I don't see why you back off and let Barella be that wing back all of a sudden. I noticed that Barella was taking that right side much more and making more crosses compared to Hakimi. It wasn't until the second half where Hakimi started to be more active and started to delivering balls into the box, which were like way wide and over like nowhere near
that's
players.
a good point. So something that I noticed for the entire first half and then early into the second half, and of course right after I tweeted about it, Inter were able to draw the penalty, but the crossing was really, really poor in that, and Hakimi was responsible for some of it. I think Barella was responsible for some of it. I couldn't really tell if it was just bad crosses or if there was a problem with the left wing backs not making the right runs, because they were doing a lot of crosses from the right side to the far post on the left, and there was no one in the vicinity. It's like whether it was Perisic or Ashley Young when he came on, it's like they were maybe making the run too far inside when they weren't at the right spot to receive it, but the crosses were going to no man's land.
Yeah, I just didn't see them make enough runs down the wings. Eriksson made an impact. I thought him coming in the second half really gave them some creativity, some ball movement. Gagliardini, didn't know how bad he was. He fucking sucks.
He was terrible.
Fucking reeks, man. Holy shit. Can he not do
anything? I think it was the 55th minute he came off. If Conte is making a sub at the 55th minute, you know there's a problem because he likes to wait till 70.
Oh, Sanchez was amazing. Came on for 10 minutes.
Yeah,
wow.
He was great.
Like that. It's amazing how he can really – I think he's much more effective coming off the bench. Like that's where I was. That's where I would say Miguel.
For sure.
That's a player that would make a big difference for Milan. Is a guy like Sanchez who can come off the bench and just even if he's not the most gifted player, well, he's got talent, obviously, which other players don't in Milan. But like it's just his ability to give a spark, give some intensity, give that jolt that they need, and that's something that Milan really is missing recently. Again, you know better than me about Milan. I know that they have a lot of injuries. Maybe one of their injured players, they do have a guy like Sanchez who's probably injured right now, who can probably make that difference. Not a guy like Salamakers. I know he can run fast, but you want that blend of intensity, speed, motivation, along with some technicality where the player can make a difference. You know what I mean? And a guy like Sanchez can provide that for Milan.
Yeah, that's kind of why the Mandzukic signing was kind of brought in, because he can also fill in on the wings. He's played as right wing before, I believe, and left wing. So ideally, the thing was, okay, we brought him in. Yes, he might be Ibra's deputy, but once he gets a few run of games, we're going to try him in the right wing position, because, he is world class. He is motivated. He has that, extra source of talent and technicality that we've seen over the years. And if you're a real Milanista, you know that our wingers are not the best. It's fine on the left because we have Rebic, but that right-hand side is really lacking, because Castillejo and Salamakers, they're just going to run. They're going to get those balls. They're going to give all they got, but that extra bit of world-class quality and, that lethal injection that you get on the final third from a world-class player is not there from them. And that's why we're trying to go for these guys like Otavio from Porto and Tovan from Marseille, because those players have that extra edge. So that's why it's really important for us to make top four, so we can make those signings to make this team better.
So last thing before we wrap it up. So Jerry, David wants you to talk about Bayern Lazio. Do you believe in miracles, Jerry? I mean, down 4-1 on aggregate, giving up 4 away goals in the first leg. Are we going to see like a masterful 4-0 at Bayern? Are we going to see that?
I'll answer this, and I'll answer his SMS question too that he asked earlier as well. I don't see a miracle happening here. Not Bayern. You know what? Lazio had their chance. They should have won the first leg. It was gift wrapped to Bayern, their inexperience, just being nervous. I forgot who said it. I think it was on Nima's pod where they said it perfect. The first minute, Manuel Lattidi kicked it out of bounds for a corner kick. Within the first 30 seconds, they already cracked. So I want a good game. That's all I want.
Yeah, you're playing for pride now.
Yeah, that's what it is. I want to see that my team can pull out a 1-0 win, a 2-1 win, maybe a 1-1 draw, but a hard-fought 1-1 draw. And those kind of results will help Lazio long-term in the season, where they can build off confidence. Sustaining anything positive against a team like Bayern will help their season in the latter part. I personally think it would give a lot of experience to these guys. They have been in poor form in recent time, and they've been struggling to win games, and something like this can really turn your season around. Don't start Patrick, I would say. If Patrick starts, we are fucked. I love his motivation. He know why he's the grinta. Like he can give you that spark on the bench and try to rally you, but he is so outmatched, and he's not a good player. Technically, everything, it's bad. I heard that they plan on starting Stefan Radu with a Cherby in the middle and Musacchio on the right. I know that Musacchio gave up that weak pass in the first game against them. But here's another problem. Why is Musacchio playing on the left side when that's not his natural position? So you're putting him. You're forcing a player who doesn't even play in a back three. Let's first consider that. He's playing in a back three. Plays in a back four on the right side. We're shifting him on the left side in a back three. You're putting him in a difficult situation against Bayern Munich. It was all a disaster for him to fail. Like, he's not that bad of a player, I find, compared to Patrick. I would have started Wesley Hoot from the beginning if that was the case. You start with Hoot on the left, Patrick on the right, and Musaki on the right, and Acerbi in the middle. That's what I would have gone with, or the opposite. Hoot goes in the middle, Acerbi on the left. I don't know why people hate Hoot as well. I know he makes those big one bad mistakes like he did against Inter, but his overall game is not that bad. How people, I just don't like one bad play erases a whole player's game.
Yeah.
And it shouldn't be evaluated on one big blunder. Like, it's not just him who's done it this year. Stefan Radu did it versus Hellas Verona. Musakio's done it now against Bayern. And the problem is that Lazio implemented this pass 20,000 times back to the goalkeeper, Peperena, to pass it back to you, to pass it back to him, to give it to the team to score. Like, it blows my mind. And last year we never did this back pass to the goalkeeper. We would attack, go down the wings, go down the middle, and have an idea. This year it's been lacking, and it's scary. It's about pride, and Bayern's got so many players back now. They got Thomas Muller's back in the lineup. I think Pavard's back as well.
You're in trouble, man. I'm sorry.
This is scary, man. And
that team is fucking frightening. It's like when they have a full squad available, it is just disgusting. One of my best friends is a Bayern fan, and I've watched some games with him before. That was the guy, Jerry, that you interviewed for the piece that you wrote on the Laziali, and I've been to before COVID, they would have these like big Bayern watch parties. And just like the fans are lunatics. Like, you never knew there were so many German people living in Miami. Like, where do these people hide? Like, they just come out to watch these games together, and it's nuts. And that team is so sick. I can remember going to a couple of games, and the Bundesliga, the bottom half of it is not very good. And so when Bayern is going up against like a relegation side, they'll score like 5 goals, and then like the fans are like, "Oh, we should have scored more goal. Why did we not score more?" It's like they're not. It's like, bro, you won 5-0. Like, you're not happy with that.
I guess, you know what? I've never encountered a bad Bayern fan compared to Juventus.
Oh no, they're great. Yeah, they're great people. Believe me.
You know what? I like how they build their business, like their club. They're not. They build properly. They have a good youth foundation. They buy the right players. They don't really blow money, like substantial amount of money on players. They find these hidden gems, and like they've done this like kind of like foundation, which is really great. But I don't know how to say it, but yeah, I have respect for Bayern fans. I haven't been like treated like shit with the whole Bayern versus Lazio. They've been respectful and understand that our team is so like outmatched that they don't brag about beating Lazio. Like, you don't get that shit, which is really nice. We could talk about SMS before we go if you want, David.
Go ahead,
Alex. Sorry,
I'm half asleep, but you do it. I'll be over here napping.
And I'll get Miguel to weigh in as well. I personally don't see SMS leaving. Even if we got Europa League, he's not leaving. No one's paying 100 million. Let's just get this right now. Like, no one is going to spend Lotito demands. He doesn't have to sell SMS. He doesn't have to sell anybody. We took a financial loss of 15 million euros. Are you kidding me? Like, he signed up until 2024. There's still, I think, another 3 more years or 4 more years left on his contract. He's never requested to leave. He's spoken out last year how he loves playing for Lazio, and at this moment he is excited to be here. I know that his dream team is to play for Real Madrid one day. I do think that will come along the way, but at the moment, until Simone Inzaghi is still the manager of Lazio, it makes me believe him more that he will be with the team because how much Inzaghi values Sergei Milinkovic-Savic and his role within the team, and now starting to give him the armband as well. in place of Ciro Immobile, which I think players really take that into consideration. And another thing is, if he were to go to a team like Real Madrid or like a really serious big club, I'm curious to know how he would do with like the pressure. Can he play in that kind of role and play with an elite club and sustain that status? You know what I mean? Like, it's a big jump going from Lazio all of a sudden to Real Madrid or Barcelona. It comes with a heavy responsibility, and I'm curious to see if he's able to take his game to that next level. I think a lot has to do with Simone Inzaghi and how he's allowed him to play this kind of like deep line midfielder to attacking midfielder and be very effective on both ends and playing in a formation that really gets the best out of his game in the 3-5-2. I again, I don't treat Lazio as a top club in Serie A. They're probably the top of the last tops of the top 7 clubs, if you know what I mean. Like they're the 7th. To me, Lazio is a top 7 team. And why I say that is the first 6 is Milan, Inter, Juventus, Roma. I know people say that Roma is the club of Rome, and I know the history, but financially, I think that Roma still has more to spend than Lazio. The only issue is that they've never been able to spend it right, and they got financial owners now. They got very wealthy owners. So I don't like to be a Lazio fan who's clouded and thinks that Roma's on the bottom, Lazio's on the top. Don't forget, we got Claudio Lotito. He doesn't dish out. And so, yeah, and then you have Napoli. I think that is ahead of them as well with Milan. So that makes them 7th to me. But I'm rambling there. But overall, I just don't see the need for Lazio to sell him. And if he is to be sold, the first thing is that Lazio is going to have a game plan in order to bring someone in to replace him. They're not going to just sell him for nothing. So if there isn't a player coming in that is of adequate or similar skill set that can really replace his role, they're not going to sell him because Lazio's not going to try to be worse. And that's just how I see it. Love to hear what you guys think, but go ahead, Miguel.
Well, I completely agree with you, Jerry. I think Milinkovic-Savic's opportunity to leave Lazio was probably about 2 seasons ago when there was interest for Milan. So Milinkovic-Savic's best opportunity for him to leave Lazio was probably 2 seasons ago when there was interest for Milan. I think Lotito had him at like 70 million or 80 million for that transfer to go through. Obviously, Milan didn't have that money. And I think, as you said, Milinkovic-Savic is very much committed to this team. He still has 2-3 years on his contract. He's probably going to play it out for another 2-3 years. And as you mentioned, he dreams to play for Real Madrid. I think that will come maybe in 2 or 3 years at the end of his contract. That might come to him. But I think right now he's comfortable where he's at. Lazio may not be the best team. They may not, win Scudetto, or they may not make a deep run in the Champions League, but he's comfortable with the football he's playing. He's growing, he's adapting, he's turning into a better player. And I think that this is where he needs to be because, like you said, making that jump to, an English Premier League side or Real Madrid or Barcelona, that's a huge jump. And I just don't think he's ready for that. I think he still has a little bit more to learn and to develop before he can make that move.
I think there's something to be said for the sort of comfort one gets at Lazio under Simone Inzaghi. Like we consider the time that Ciro Immobile has had there. I mean, he's tried other clubs, he's been other places, and it hasn't worked out for him. Lazio has always been the right home for him, and not the two players are ever the same. But I think in the case of Milinkovic-Savic, he at least has the anecdotal evidence of his teammate and knowing that the grass is not always greener. Like, you're fitting in very well here. You're playing your best football. You're under a manager who doesn't seem to be going anywhere anytime soon. It's like Inzaghi feels like a Lazio lifer at this point. You're not gonna have to worry about managerial changes. You're comfortable here. it doesn't surprise me that he's happy. I mean, not every player is desperate to make a move to a bigger club. If they're making enough of a financial sacrifice, and he makes a pretty lucrative deal, Jerry, if you're making enough money to be able to provide a comfortable life for your family, you're enjoying the football you're playing, you're obviously playing enough to be able to get on your national team. So, yeah, I'm not that worried. But I do want to wrap it up, guys, at this point. Go ahead.
Thoughts about Fiorentina, Tramas us. They're shit. There you go. They're shit. They ruin players, okay?
See, Fiorentina fan also?
They suck. I'm sorry.
They looked good the other day, Fiorentina.
Wow. They won a fucking game in how many games?
Hey,
Jesus Christ.
Listen, Chom, I'm with you, Chom.
No, screw. No, never mind. Okay, Vlahovic. Thank God they didn't ruin that guy yet. They ruined Castrovilli. They ruined Chiesa. Everyone blamed Chiesa. He was shit at Fiorentina. Oh, this guy can't do it. They were using him in so many different roles, different managers getting into his head. Fiorentina is like, it's like a cancer, man. Like there's nothing sustainable there. I'm sorry. And until they get a manager that is a long-term plan and can give them a vision for the future, all these short-term gaps and these band-aids they bring in are just going to continue to ruin that team. I'm sorry. That's just how I see it. And they need someone for the future. And until they do that, team's a fucking dud to me, man.
I got to run on that note. Want to send a huge thanks to our special guest, Miguel Agyei. Miguel, let people know where they can find you on social media, where they can keep up with you.
All right, guys. So you can follow me at Twitter at Miguel Agyei29. It's right there. You can also follow me on YouTube at Milano Miguel. Yeah, that's pretty much it. We got a big game coming up on Thursday playing Manchester United. We're hoping to get another win so we can advance in the Europa League. And then we have to, play against Fiorentina. So that'll be a good one.
Good stuff. And Jerry, anything to promote? People can find you, of course, on Twitter at jmancini8. You're writing for Lazio sites. You're writing for Inter sites. You're all over the place. Any work you want to promote this week?
I don't know. I got 3 takeaways. I finally wrote up on the Lazio Crotone game. I know I'm like 4 days late, but I've been so busy this weekend that I wrote up a piece on the Inter Lazio. I did a piece on Lazio. I don't know. I can't keep track of my own work, man. I just, you know what, man? I just, on my days off, my wife works at home, so I'll spend like 8 hours just writing beside her. And I'll just spend the day beside her while she's working, and I'll just pop out some articles. I got like 15 articles saved in my computer right now. And like I wrote a piece on why Juventus should sell Ronaldo, and a few other ones. I got one on Milan, on Pioli I started like 3 months ago, where how he's done a really good job with Milan and how he's really turned it around, and basically how he's given them more of a winning identity. So And I wanted to do a piece on him because I think even though just recent times it started to dip off for Milan, I kind of hate some of the Milan fans where they forget what he was able to achieve before that and how he's really taken this club a step up and has really given them some life. You know what I mean? Don't be a prisoner of the moment where they lost a game on Sunday against Napoli and start freaking. I saw Milan on Twitter. It was pretty bad yesterday. And right away they're freaking. Not all. I don't ever like to criticize everyone in the same boat, but it's sports, man. Someone has to win, someone has to lose. The problem is that Milan feels very unfair because they've won so much that it hasn't equated to anything yet. That's the problem. And God, I would feel bad for a Milan fan. I would feel bad for myself if I was a Milan fan if they don't go top 4 or win anything, because all that success, what was it for? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think people forget that streak happened from last year. And that whole long run is kind of intertwined between last year and this year, where half of it's really irrelevant because it didn't really equate to anything for this year. So I don't want to say it's a waste. It's never a waste because you want those wins. The problem is it wasn't combined in 1 year. So now, because of such a successful half a year and a half a year last year, it's like it wasn't the full year of what you wanted. I know it probably sounds stupid what I'm saying, but like the way I'm saying it, but Milan's probably wishing that all happened in 1 year of all their wins, because they went unbeaten.
Sure.
26. Had they gone unbeaten 27 straight games, Miguel?
28 games.
They would have won the Scudetto, maybe. Honestly,
yeah.
Who knows?
If that was over one season,
yeah.
It's possible,
and we added this season start, we would have won the Scudetto.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I wanted to write this piece about Stefano Pioli. I didn't like. And last topic before we go, and Alex kind of mentioned this. I didn't like his comparison about bringing up how had they been missing 3 star players, like Inter were missing their star players, and Juventus were missing star players. That's any team, man. Like, you can't really use that excuse when you've been missing players for how many games now. All of a sudden, now that's becoming an issue. It wasn't an issue for the last 20 games. 20 games later, and now you're starting to say, if we had our 3 players out, and if Inter had their 3 best players out, what would they be like? And it's like, you're right. It does suck, but you don't want to resort to that because it's just a poor man's excuse to me.
I hate excuses. I'm not singling out Milan because I hated when Conte used to do it a lot last year. He hasn't done it a lot this year. I think the club made it very clear they don't want that shit from him, so he's not been doing it so much. But last year, he was an excuse machine. The excuses to me are the signs of either a manager who whines way too much or a manager who's too insecure in his job. If you got to be making excuses to other things like that. But on that note,
I guess Miguel doesn't want to comment. That's fine.
No, I was going to say.
I can comment. I mean, I think for Pioli, it's kind of just the constant badgering from the media. I think just this one time, that was just his excuse. We've seen throughout the season how Pioli's been hammered by the media, especially last season with the, oh my gosh, Ragnick is going to come. How do you feel? And he's like, yo, I'm just here to do my job. When we get there, we get there. And it has been difficult. Milan has missed players, but Milan has never missed players this much, if that makes sense. When we did have players missing, it was one player. It was okay, Benacer is missing. And then you had Hakan, you had Theo Hernandez. And then it'd be, okay, Zlatan's missing for 2-3 weeks. But now we're missing Zlatan, we're missing Rebic, we're missing Tonali, we're missing Benacer. It's a lot now. So I understand why he's if we're missing our big 3 players, which we are. We're missing a midfielder, our striker, and a defender, which ultimately is 3 big holes in our squad. But yeah, I'm not a fan of the excuses. The result didn't go our way. And, we pick our heads up and we fight for the next game because it's already done. What are you making excuses for? The result didn't happen. So.
Well, that'll do it for us, my friends. Huge thanks again to Jerry. You can follow him on Twitter at jmancini8. You can follow Miguel there at Miguel Agyei29. You can follow me at Alex Donno. We are going to be making some interesting show-related announcements, I think, within the next couple of weeks. So Jerry and I will keep everybody up to date on all of that good stuff. So I want to send a huge thank you to everyone who joined in on the chat. The chat's a lot of fun. I love the fact that during this YouTube chat, people can interact and we can bring the questions on board. It really is a great way to get the folks interested in talking to us and all that. So we're going to talk to you guys again on another episode of the Calcio Connection podcast. Buonanotte. We'll talk to you guys later. Ciao.